Activation code required. Access granted. Warning. Evacuation sequence activated.
We're back. Welcome to the bunker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of S-4 Radio. Tonight, friend, we're a lonely crew again. But that's okay. We have Rosella C. Rowe here with us, and it is going to be an excellent show. So, how are you doing, Rosella?
I'm okay. I'm trying to hang in here. I'm tired. I've been up since 6:30 in the morning and it's 1 o'clock here in Ohio.
Okay, I do have to ask you something.
Okay.
Have you experienced any effects from the hurricanes?
Okay, so not here. No.
Okay, no, because people are praying for people in Ohio because apparently your rivers are supposed to be raising.
Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's supposed to push that far north.
Like we're gonna have rain now?
No, your rivers are going to raise from the water's going to raise from from downstream.
Wow. Okay.
It's supposed to push that far north.
Huh. Wow. No, I don't want to watch it today because it's devastating. I don't want to watch it,
Yeah, to all our listeners in Florida and Tennessee and all of those, Georgia, all of those states that are affected really heavily, our thoughts are with you.
Yeah.
Hold on to something. Friend, I did see one guy the other day who has a great sense of humor. After the first hurricane, he walked back into his house and he was playing the Jurassic Park theme song. Because a group of 4 alligators had taken up his home in his living room.
Oh, wow.
They're all standing in the water in his living room.
Whoa.
So he walked in playing the Jurassic Park theme song.
Oh, my God.
Fred, yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Jeez. No, I just thought you were kind of joking because it's so,
Yeah, no, I can't believe that. Well, but at the same time, it's kind of stupid not to think about it a little bit. That these animals also need to find somewhere to go.
It is so sad. Yeah.
Well,
then,
and then,
well, it just got hit. So it's so horrible.
well, and now there's another one coming.
So, they just got hit. What was it? That was a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
got
a
hit
week
by
ago.
Helena.
Milton
Milton is coming in, and now there's another one behind it
I think
that's
it's
supposed to hit them.
Louise.
Third one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only a tropical impression right now, but it's building, and it's headed right towards them. Right. Right? And they all seem to be giant storms, too. It's not just a little F1 or something. No, they're all F3, F4, F5. What?
Jeez. Gosh, yeah, I have a lot of friends who, and my aunt who lives down there too. So I have not heard anything from anybody yet. So I have to kind of check in later. I was thinking tomorrow, but it's so awful. Yeah, here, like, we are going away. I have a book signing this weekend, so we're going up to Marblehead to do that in Ohio. And so our weather is pretty good here. Like, it's 70. I mean, I think we're averaging like 69 to 72. It's perfect.
That's beautiful. Crap. We've been in like the 50s.
Yeah, we're going down like in the 40s at night. I will say it's pretty crazy. Like, because we have our pool is still open, so you get up in the morning and it's just like huge fog, like evaporating from the pool, you know,
Right.
because it's just so cold. I'm like, whoa, this is like crazy, and it just feels like it's so fast, but it also doesn't feel like it's October yet to me because we had so much heat. We had like that horrible heat where it was like 100 degrees for well into like the whole month of September. So we didn't get a break.
I don't know what's going on lately, but weather's been really weird. Like,
Really
we had like summer in spring, and then it stopped, and then went to fall, and then it went back to summer. Like, it's just been like all over the place. It's like a yo-yo.
We hit 35 degrees last week
Whoa.
at night.
Yeah, we hit like 40, I think probably like 42, 40s.
But like the week before that, it was almost 100 degrees out. We're like, what is going on?
Yeah, and it's like surprising. You get it. It's like, okay, it's 50 degrees in the morning, but it gets like up to like, 80 to 100. And that was like all September. And now, like, boom, all this weird stuff kind of going. It's a wackadoodle. Yo-yo is a good word. I had a sinus infection just because of what the weather was doing. So I was messed up last week.
It felt like forever for summer to start this year too. Like,
I
felt
can't
like
remember back
it was
that far as
raining and
that.
just nasty until halfway through summer, before summer actually started. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. We had a lot of rain. I'm pretty sure we almost had like rain almost every night, but it would be at night and you were sleeping, so it really didn't matter, and they weren't like huge storms. But we mostly had rain every single night, and then like the third week of July, it just stopped, and then we went into a horrible drought. And then because of the hurricane, we had all this rain come in for like a week or two. It kept coming up here. It came up pretty quick, and it just hovered right over us. And of course, that was like during we had our like kind of wedding ceremony. Pretty much, we did like a renewal of our vows, and that day was rainy, but it broke just enough for us to be outside to get into the church, kind of like get pictures afterwards, and then go. So we were good.
Well,
We got
that's
pretty-
good luck.
Right.
It was, yeah.
Raining on that day is supposed to be good luck.
Yeah, rain means rebirth. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Right.
And it did like stop just enough. It's funny because I had to like throw an umbrella down like on the side of the chapel and then walk in. Like, and hope my umbrella doesn't blow away. When I'm
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything. Hee. Boom, umbrella.
Okay, so I
kinda
gotta
funny.
say, I was actually talking to my mom about this like a week ago. And we were talking about like all of this strange, like astronomical stuff that you hear about now, and like the weird weather shit that we never heard about, and then all of a sudden it happens like every other week.
Okay,
Like-
hold on one second there, though.
What?
Both you and your mother are purebred Washington born,
No, absolutely.
which means
Absolutely.
you have
I'll give it
never
that. I'll
experienced
give it that.
more than 2 seasons.
No, and we really haven't.
Fall and summer.
Yes, but no, what I mean is like, it used to be, I feel like we didn't have as many supermoons, and then it was all of a sudden, it was like every other couple of months was a supermoon. You know, stuff like that, where I'm like, I've never even heard of this, and now all of a sudden it's happening like all the time.
Well,
You
above
know?
all, I really wanted to talk to you, Kayla, about this. Like, yesterday was hell with that stupid, what is it, the solar thing?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is it called again? The solar flares.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
hole the size of the Grand Canyon opened up in the sun.
Yeah.
That was horrible. I was like so tired. I haven't slept well really all week. I didn't sleep well. But then I got up like cuz I was so tired. I'm not sleeping very well, which is not normal for me. Like I usually sleep and I'm okay. Like when I'm out, I'm pretty out and like you can wake me up pretty easily, but I mean, I'll usually stay out.
Right.
But yeah, I could not sleep like for 2 days leading up. So I was so exhausted. And I always say, if I like lie down for a nap, like I'm not doing well. And I came home, I dropped off my son at school, and I'm like, okay, from 9 to like 12, I'm sleeping, which is insane for me. But I did. And so I got up and I'm like, okay, I finally got some sleep. I feel normal again. And then 2:00 hit and I had this brain fog that was so horrible. My friend, she texted me. I've talked about her a few times, Misty. She's very sensitive to energies and stuff too. And she's like, are you a mess? And I'm like, well, yeah, actually, why? And she's like, no, there's solar flares. And I didn't even know. And I'm like, oh my God, is what Kayla talked about.
Right.
So I was a mess.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
What the hell are you doing here?
I decided to get on because I'm at at one of the appointments that I'm at. So it's not my appointment. It's not one of my appointments. So both boards actually. So I decided to hop on for a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Rock on.
Cool. We were talking about the solar flare yesterday.
Yeah, so I have not slept better in years than I have this week.
Oh my
Because
God.
I finally have my best friend back with me.
Oh my gosh. It does. It was ridiculous.
I have not seen him since I was 12 years old.
What are you talking about?
My mom came last week,
Oh.
and she brought me an elf doll. Do you guys remember
Elf?
Yes.
Yeah. I still watch it, actually.
Friend, I had one when I was a kid. And she saw one at a garage sale and bought it for me. So now he sleeps beside me.
Yeah, he does.
In Kayla's spot.
Thank you.
I replaced an alien with an alien.
Yeah, you know, this asshole tells me. He's like,
Yeah,
finally,
right.
an alien that understands me.
Oh, wow. My stepfather loves that. So I actually got him one for his birthday, and I'm going to send it soon. It's so cute. I love Alf.
When I got mine when I was probably 3 years old. And my dad absolutely hated him. Because, like, if we left town and I forgot him, we had to go back. It didn't matter how far away we were. And I carried him everywhere in a grocery bag. Right?
Aww. That's so cute.
So, yeah, I'm happy to have him back. He's my buddy.
That's so funny.
And this one still has his hair. I cut his hair when I was, like, 7. So...
Yeah, it's been great.
Mine was bald.
It's been great. You ever see
Sorry,
a
Caleb.
fully grown man wandering around with an elf doll? Hey, buddy. Okay, it's creepy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little disturbing.
Right.
I'm just saying.
He was running around with a Darth Vader doll. That's something that would be more disturbing.
Right.
Yeah.
I will admit, the way that you described that in the beginning, I was like, oh, this sounds terrible. Because you're like, yeah, haven't seen my buddy in so many years, and now he's sleeping with me, and we're all... And I'm like, oh, God. Cole, explain that it's a stuffed animal, please.
Why, you jealous?
Okay. Either way, it's a little weird.
Alien was eating cat on a TV show.
Well,
I was
No,
actually watching Alf yesterday because I couldn't. Alf yesterday because I couldn't sleep. So I was like watching the one where he's talking about Rhonda or something, and the spaceship, like he had to run to a spaceship, so he couldn't have his date with Rhonda.
Oh, nice.
It's so
I
funny.
remember that one. Yeah, like, okay, but here's the thing, and that's what today's show is about. Jesus Christ, guys.
Oh, hi, Nikki.
What are you doing here?
Nobody's going to be here. Oh, hi, everybody.
Well, she said she was going to listen, because she just wrote.
Just
Okay.
listening in today.
Okay.
Okay.
So just so you guys know, we changed it a little bit. We are going to talk tonight about the weirdest crap and the weirdest ways we have seen the paranormal used in pop culture. Things that just, they don't jive sometimes.
Okay, like, for instance, like, Bigfoot being the spokesperson for Jack Link's jerky. Okay?
Okay. That's good.
And, well, and like not even asking him. Like, what if he's a vegetarian? Well, now you just freaking, like, stereotype the shit out of him. But not only that, like,
Funny.
the way he's portrayed.
Is super aggressive.
Yeah, they've changed it so much throughout the years. Sometimes he's loving, like, especially around Valentine's Day. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed the last couple of years, the Jack Link's boxes.
Valentine's
they're
Day
covered in
heart.
fur and they're the shape of a heart.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And,
like, on the back of that one, it said, get your lover jacked with some Jack Links.
Yeah, and
Oh my
it was,
God.
it
whoa.
said Squatch Love. Like,
Damn.
just all kinds of wrong things. Friend,
Well, we have a lot of statues here. Like, they love to do statues of Bigfoot all over the place in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
And then they put them out, like, they'll have, like, cardboard, even, like, shadow kind of cutouts. Cardboard cutouts, like, kind of thing. Paint them black. And then, like, when you're going down this winding road and crap, it will scare the hell out of you when you're driving. Like, you can almost run up the road. It's very dangerous. They'll put these things out, like, you know, you just see something coming towards your car, you think, and you just see a black shadow figure, and you think someone's walking across the road. You don't even know what it is. It's really dangerous.
At least it's just Bigfoot cutouts, because I swear that, like, Bigfoot ones, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's somebody being funny or whatever. But if it was like, if it was some of the other cryptids, I think I'd probably have a heart attack. Like, you're going and all of a sudden you see, like, a Wendigo just chilling on the stump. Like, oh my God. No, thank you.
I know, you kind of can't make it out because you just, like, you see a big shadow figure, so you're like, you know, like, and it's always like a winding road where you're going to crash.
That
I'm like, wow.
really, really makes me want to put a bunch of cutouts on Highway 20.
The cop cars that people will slow down. If they had one of the cop cars and then above it, they'd have a UFO with the lights attached so it'd be lit up. That would be something to be seen about.
That would be hilarious.
what the hell would they be
That's
trying
funny.
to say? Your police officers are out of this world? Like,
The abduction.
I will say one thing. Hulu has done a lot of, have you noticed those alien commercials?
no, I haven't seen those
I
yet.
haven't seen many alien commercials on Hulu.
Yeah, they're like advertising Hulu, and they're all like kind of graphic in a way, but they, you know, like somebody's graphically done them on the computer kind of deal.
Yeah.
But they light up and stuff like that, and like in the end, and they're alien, like it's like an alien ship that says Hulu on the top or something ridiculous. And I'm like, what's the point? And I've seen like 4 different ones of these alien ships, and I just don't see the point.
Well,
It's
and
kind of
it's just to grab people's attention.
Well, and that's the thing, is that everything seems to be some kind of paranormal now. It's like the aliens just became like spokespersons for everything.
It is really weird. Yeah.
Because there were a bunch of them this year at the Super Bowl, too, that were all like alien related.
Cheetos uses
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, everybody went paranormal this year. Like,
Cheetos uses
I know.
those.
Well, Robin Hayes, yesterday was on Spaced Out Radio, and she talked about how the Sasquatch actually hate being used because people are profiting off of them.
Well, yeah.
It was something that really fascinated me with what she said. Sorry, guys, I didn't expect to talk. Kind of surprised me.
No, but like it's true. It bothers me too. Like it. When the fuck would a ghost like a Cheetos? Like when Cheetos introduced the hot Cheetos, they had ghosts advertising for them. Well, as far as I know, the ghost can't even taste it. Like, well, there is such a thing as your taste buds dying.
Well, all I could think about is in Casper when the uncles like eat and it falls through them and lands on the floor, and they're like, "Oh, that was delicious!" Like,
yeah.
Friend.
Yeah, it's like junkie ghost.
right?
Slimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it has been done a lot before that. And that's the thing. Like, me and Kayla were talking about this on the way home tonight. There's a lot of things that have opened the doors for other things. Like, we were talking about me and her have restarted watching Fringe again. Mm-hmm. Do you guys remember that show? About 2005, 2008? First thing I noticed was it was like 4th episode. Have any of you watched, I think it's Fire Country? It's not a paranormal show.
I don't think so.
No? Okay, so like it's about the California firefighters.
Cal Fire.
Yeah. And like the wildfire fighters. I don't know if I said that.
Okay.
That might have been too many fires.
Firefighters.
But it's about them and the dad in it. I think he also plays the dad in Jericho, if I'm right. I can't remember what else he played. No,
Yeah, anyway.
He plays Bella's dad in Twilight.
Okay.
But in this show, it was amazing because we didn't realize how old Fringe is, how young he is in this show.
Yeah, he popped out and I was like, holy shit, he looks familiar. Oh, he's
Like,
that
he
old
looks
guy.
like he's 20.
He played Bella's dad?
Yeah.
In Twilight? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And now he's on that Fire Country, and he does a really good job.
Yeah, but I was like, wow. Like, to look at those two pictures side by side, I was like, you wouldn't even... It took me back because it took me a little while to figure out who the hell I was watching. I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. Oh.
But we were talking about that. We were trying to figure out what opened the door for a show like Fringe to be acceptable. And then looking at it.
Okay, there's a lot of shows that can be... You look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she was the start of some serious stuff.
Right.
With
Sabrina
paranormal.
But we got to go deeper
The Teenage Witch, yeah. Mm-hmm. You going back into the early 90s,
you gotta
early
go younger.
mid-90s.
You have to go...
Yeah, there's a lot more than that. But, I mean, in television-wise, I mean...
Ghostbusters cartoon series, Gargoyles.
Yep, exactly.
And then I was thinking about it.
Transformers.
Mm-hmm. Were we that stupid?
You talk aliens, I mean, hello.
But, like, were we that stupid?
What?
The show Gargoyles. I haven't met a person my age who didn't frickin' love that show. Mm-hmm. But looking at it now...
I remember that show.
It is the dumbest premise in the world.
Yeah.
Like, how lowly entertained were we?
Well, and the thing is that there are gargoyles.
Well, yeah,
I can attest to that one. Had an experience with one. Kind of freaked me out when I found out that they were real.
The idea that was all it took was for them to wake up the gargoyles, and we were totally accepting of it as kids.
We're like, oh yeah, look, gargoyles are real. Woo!
It makes sense that we could be totally accepting of a show like Fringe as adults. Because when you watch that show, like... It is one of the weirdest ones out there for a TV show.
Yeah.
The things they talk about.
Yeah, they talk about everything from mind control to pills that will do this to
And they
like
don't
it's crazy.
do what they don't do what the Twilight Zone, X-Files, and all those ones did, where they skirted around a lot of it with not calling it what it was. They straight out say, "This is what we're doing."
Yeah, and here we're gonna pump him full of LSD and watch what happens. And I'm like, what the hell? Okay.
Like, I think it's second episode of Fringe, first season, that they actually perform electroshock therapy to delve into someone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, like, they are straight up performing MK Ultra experiments.
Yeah.
In the second episode.
It's super weird. But then I think about, like, other shows that have kind of, like, spawned from that. And, like, you got, like, Umbrella Academy, stuff like that, where you're like, that is the weirdest shit I've ever seen, but for some reason I can't stop seeing it. Like...
And then you got shows like Supernatural, where we're all cool with every cryptid and spirit and anything they ran into. But the moment they start coming back to life every fucking season, well, now we can't handle this shit. This is no good anymore. They've still found a way to make us disinterested.
See, and it always really weirds me out, like, the multiple types of shows that come out at the same time. Okay, so you'll have something start and it'll be like when Supernatural came out. At the time that Supernatural came out, so did Grimm, so did, like all of these ones that were semi like it, but not 100%. And you were like, huh, why did all of a sudden there's like 12 shows that are all about supernatural things? And okay.
Yeah, there's a peak. We got to throw more on.
Well, yeah. But that is honestly what TV executives do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You look at doctor
That's
shows.
just what I was going to say.
House
That's marketing.
and Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, like House and Grey's Anatomy came out. They both exploded, so all of a sudden you've got all of these ones following them. One's about an army medic. One's about they made one for every freaking city in America.
ER, Chicago, this, yeah, right.
Oh god, yeah.
And now we have Chicago Wednesdays, where you get fire, PD, med. Like you have every single set.
And they all like interact with each other. It's
and
like
all like the 911s and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like this superhero crap where like one show will come out and it gets like huge ratings, and they're like, oh hey, now let's make it this show and this offspring of this and this offspring of that guy.
Okay, let's be careful.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know, but Mickey's listening. He owns half that shit now. Friend.
Well, it's like the same thing when Ghost Hunters came out. Then, they were the first ones, right? And then all these other shows came out, which were pretty much fake,
Friend, you got Ghost Adventures. What other ones do we have?
Oh, dude, we have so many ghost shows. Like, where they go into somebody's house and do an exploration, or this place has been haunted since 1802.
And then some executive went on to the internet and checked out the word paranormal and what it meant. Found out cryptids are a thing, so now we got all kinds of Bigfoot shows and all that.
Yeah, like we got In Search of Sasquatch.
Expedition Unknown.
And like monsters, something, river monsters, and fuck, every monster. Ugh.
Friend.
Well, speaking of that, have you heard of this UFO Cowboys? I've never seen it, but that's another thing advertised on Hulu.
No way.
Yeah, they just came out with that. It's like some UFO cowboy thing.
Yeah, like they chase them in the dark on the horses, and like in Arizona or something. I don't know, but it looks completely retarded. So it was like, come on, and they're old men.
Okay, but guys, it makes sense.
Seriously. Not okay. Stupid.
I mean, yeah, and you're putting an old man on a horse.
Right.
Guys, it makes sense. I mean, the last cowboy just got to the point where he can't ride a horse. Clint Eastwood said he was never going to be able to ride again. So they need something new.
So they who's willing to get on a horse and ride through the dark?
An alien.
Look for alien
That's
UFOs.
as bad as hunting. That's as bad as hunting Sasquatch. Are you freaking kidding? Okay, I
Oh
gotta
my
shut
God.
up.
You asked me
Yeah,
for it.
Go
But
up
like,
the
okay,
same
what
age.
the
my
hell
God.
was that show that freaked me out?
Hold on.
It was Abraham, or the guy who killed Hitler and then killed Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It was like a big
What?
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
the name of the movie is The Guy Who Killed Hitler and Then Killed Bigfoot.
I think it's on Netflix.
Oh God!
And I was like, oh
Oh,
my
you remember
God.
those mountain ones? The old guys, the mountain hick guys. That was like it was totally staged and faked, but
Yeah.
they were from Kentucky. That was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch it to laugh. I forget what it's called. Something mountain things. Yeah. But yeah, most of it's like all fake though. That's what's so stupid about it. It's like I'm like, I'm not even gonna watch it because it's like not real. If things aren't real to me, it kind of ticks me off. So
Right?
I'm like,
I think you ladies might be into this man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
what?
You got
What?
my eyebrows raised. What?
It's got
Yeah.
it's
Sam Elliott is the main
Was the guy hot?
character.
It's Sam Elliott.
God.
So, like,
I'm sorry. Did you say Sam Elliott?
yeah,
Yes.
that's why most women have watched it.
Sam Elliott
Oh.
is the guy who killed Hitler and
Oh,
then
I
killed
love Sam.
Bigfoot.
In movies, careful how you say that. Holy
No.
crap! Don't need no freaking lawsuit.
Yeah, hey, for Kayla's mom got a pillow a few years ago of Vin Diesel.
It's just his face. It's a big
Yeah.
pillow with his face on it because it's hilarious.
We're not all at the point where we're scared to touch that pillow because we don't know what she's done with it.
Oh my God.
Fred,
Wow.
that's her nighttime pillow.
No, it just sits in the
That did
living
not
room.
need a
Jesus
visual.
Christ.
It's like God.
Neither did her kids.
But he has a friend pillow that sits by him. It's Orlando Bloom's face.
Yeah,
Jeez.
June's kind of a hoe.
Oh my God. Shut up.
Oh my.
She'll hug any celebrity.
Or that one guy that looked like a celebrity. God.
But no, yeah, that Rosella, since you were talking about Hulu, that's where that man who killed Hitler and then Bigfoot is on.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I'm looking this up just to see.
Well, okay, so that's the other thing that really freaked me out is for years they took like historic movies too and added something to it. Like Pride and Prejudice plus zombie. Or like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Like, and I was like, oh my God, stop it. Just stop it.
Okay, but did you see the original Pride and Prejudice?
Yeah, it was a little boring.
So adding zombies made it work.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, what's next? Driving Miss Daisy into a dark field where she's going to be abducted. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think things are
There's-
really old, overdone.
Don't give them any ideas. Oh my God.
I know, right?
Okay,
They're doing stupid shit. Don't give them any ideas.
what is their name?
What do you guys say? The cowboy UFO
Oh,
thing,
so
that's pretty
wrong.
original.
Betty
I mean,
and
I don't
Barney
think
Hill?
anybody
Well, they made the Cowboy versus Alien movie. I
Is
mean,
it-
that was actually a pretty good movie. It triggered me into some of my memories and flashbacks. So that was effed up. But yeah, I
Betty
mean,
and
hello.
Bonnie.
Huh?
Betty and Bonnie.
Oh God,
Isn't
No.
it Barney?
leave him alone. It's Barney.
Barney? Okay, but could you imagine
Betty and Barney Hill.
a white dude now driving the car that they were in? And they just disappeared out of the backseat. He was fine. I see this in a movie now.
Okay, that is actually that episode right there is the exact reason that I stopped watching Blue Book Files or Project Blue Book
Oh,
That was the reason?
is because I watched a couple of episodes and it was like episode 3 or something that was the Betty and
It
Barney
was
Hill.
a premiere.
Yeah, And
I was at the Seattle premiere for that movie. I have. Anyway.
And both of them, they were not an interracial couple anymore.
Excuse me?
Watch Project
Excuse
Blue
me.
Book.
Wait a minute.
They are not an interracial couple anymore. And I was like, that was a whole huge part of...
That's gigantic to their story. Are you... Okay, I gotta calm down.
Well, and the thing is...
That actually stressed me out.
Right? And I was like, nope, I'm done.
It isn't a
That's
racist
gigantic.
thing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a racist thing.
It's huge to their story.
Because the person who wrote that episode was a black guy. And it had nothing to do with race, why he erased that part. He said, because that's not the main part of the story.
But it is.
No, it's not the main part of the story, but part of it is because of the fact of the experienced in that frickin' timeline. Because what they went through during the history, oh my god, I need to quit.
Yeah,
you're gonna get me into a major tangent that you won't be able to get me out of.
And see, that was my thing, is that's what made them so credible at the time, because they didn't want to draw any more attention to themselves, because they already were an interracial couple. They didn't, coming out and saying that didn't do anything for them.
Actually, Nikki, I got something. I have an image that if you can picture it, will pull you out of any tangent you ever get yourself into. Do you know who Forrest Whitaker is?
Yes.
Do you know who James Earl
Jones alongside of this one is? Yes.
Okay. Now imagine them facing off against each other.
Sorry.
Okay?
Oh, shit.
And playing Fluffy Bunny.
A big, fluffy... Okay, add Pink Bunny with long ears.
No. Imagine... Do you know the game Fluffy Bunny?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, you have a bag of marshmallows.
Yeah.
And each person, they take a marshmallow, they put it into their mouth and into their cheeks, and they have to say Fluffy Bunny.
God.
And then you keep doing it until someone can't. Now imagine Forrest Whitaker and James Earl Jones playing Fluffy Bunny.
Nah, try Satchmo. Satchmo could outdo them both because of his cheeks with the blowing of his horn. Oh my god. Oh my.
Yeah, but Nikki, come on, try imagining Darth Vader
saying
Fluffy Bunny with 32 marshmallows in his mouth.
Okay, now that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, there isn't a tangent you can get into that you can't break out of with that thought.
That's funny.
Oh, look, a bunny.
Robert's back.
Oh, hey there, Robert.
Just had a phone call from the hospital organising an appointment to go get an injection in the eye.
You do?
Yeah. The left eye here has been playing up. It's got whatever the hell I call the liquid in there, vitreous fluid bleed in there. So it's sort of making the vision blurred in that eye. I've got to go up to the injection there. They remove the cancer. And then they got to do laser surgery on it.
Wow.
He's had some very serious medical stuff going on.
I'd much rather have the laser than them injecting something into the eye. Fuck that.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is too is about the TV stuff. I think that is none of it's really real. There's real stories out there that happen to people, and they're happening every day. Stories that can last even for years, tons of material, and nobody covers them. You can't even get stuff out there. Okay, it's the huge problem.
Alf was real.
Oh my god.
You cannot convince me otherwise.
Oh my god.
Nikki, you weren't here for that part.
No, I wasn't here for that part, but I agree with Rosella what she's talking about, because there's so many stories out there. There's millions of abductees, yet who's being covered on them? No one.
Well, people who have even like these any kind of encounters or anything at all. Like, I mean, even if you did, like, remember the real Finding Bigfoot? I mean, like, this expedition thing, I don't believe it's really real. But the other one where they interviewed people who had stories, like, even if they did a bunch of that for any kind of thing, like, it could be anything paranormal at all. Ghosts, cryptids, whatever you want to say. Could be anything. But there's tons of stories that people can tell. Even like, UFO witness, that's gone.
The abduction part?
FYI, I just got told we're being listened into, and I don't know by who. I don't care by who, but whoever's listening in is what I say to you.
Well, that's
And I'm
just
talking
rude.
government, or I'm talking government. I'm talking government or Hollywood.
That's what I was gonna
who
say.
I'm talking
Damn,
to.
Nikki. Hey, all you listeners.
I will say on the
No, I'm not talking to our
Our
normal listen. I'm not talking
I
about
know.
our normal listeners. Yeah,
I know.
no, I'm talking about government or Hollywood. Oh, it's a producer. I just got told it's a producer.
Awesome.
Oh,
Okay,
Lord.
I got some
so-
ideas for you, bro.
No, hold
I
on.
doubt
Oh,
they care.
no, don't.
Hold on, guys.
Seriously.
As a producer,
Make money on that.
If I was
You're
one.
gonna do it.
Nikki, on the abduction side, I truthfully wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Ever.
Yeah. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to.
Because it's
Why?
it's too fine of a line.
Yeah.
You're either
Oh, there's a lot of really. It would make for some really interesting movie and TV stuff. That's for sure.
it's true. I agree with you. But the thing is, what if the next day the person decides I shouldn't have told that story, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And now you just really upset them. Now you're upsetting people.
Yeah. Well, or
Yes.
That already
Right.
have
Matter
that
what.
may already have PTSD.
or you're
from this.
triggering a whole group of people that have the same type of experience that are like, holy shit.
In order to not do
know.
that, you have
Right.
to kind of make it outlandish, and now you look like just like the Mountain Man.
Yeah.
Friend, it's not real.
Right. There is a fine line there between.
No,
And
that's yeah. There is a fine line, but that's where you get people. That's where you get experiencers watching more and more to see what's going to happen. but at the same time, that's also where experiencers are going to come forward because it's going to trigger them.
Yeah.
They're going to want to tell their stories about what actually took place with them.
I think they
And
will.
it will instigate more. It'll instigate more of the experiencers coming forward. I think that could be turned into a positive because, hello, that could potentially get more information out there to the mass public who are denial this, denial that.
The problem is that I think is it's like what kind of Kayla and Cole kind of mean is that it's such a fine line in terms of there's so much that goes into it. Like he said, she said, there's like, laws, there's all these things. It's just too much.
Well, not even
And
that,
I
guys.
think it's responsibility.
There's nothing to protect them afterwards.
Those lawsuits.
Right. There's
also
nothing.
lawsuits.
You're bare.
Right.
But there's nothing to protect them afterwards from the public.
Right.
People
That's true.
by nature,
People
people are
can do their
assholes.
jobs over it.
Especially
Oh,
when
they
you
don't
put-
even have to use real names. I
No,
mean,
but-
just tell the stories.
People figure things out, though. That's a bad thing. People can figure it
Well,
out.
okay, so I will
Yeah.
give a big one on that one. So we had that show Baby Reindeer come out on Netflix, right? And they didn't use any real names or real places for these people or anything. Well, somebody went and looked hard, and
they found her.
they found the person that show had
Yeah,
been
they
talking
doxed the-
about. And, I mean, it ended up in some major lawsuits and some really, really horrible shit. Like,
And
Yeah.
the thing is, with a lot
Yeah,
of the
they keep
experiences, you're gonna have.
Yeah.
There's quite a few that you'll either have a police report or a medical report.
yeah.
And I don't care
And
what
that's
anyone
why I
says.
don't-
Medical
why I
reports
don't-
are not covered by HIPAA. I don't care because obviously they're not. Otherwise,
It
we
gets
wouldn't
out.
have so many of them fucking being leaked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friend.
But I also do agree with you, Nikki, on the fact that we have 1.5 million stories out there. Okay?
Well, yeah.
Realistic stories that people are trying to get out there. And instead of listening to a good new story, we are regurgitating bullshit instead.
Yeah. I will not really watch very many movies like the redos of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never really into that. People are like, didn't you see that? I'm like, no, I'm not going to waste my time. Like, my kids, even like, my husband was saying, hey, we're going to watch, was it Jumanji? And I said, oh, I mean, to me, I love Robin Williams, but I still have a hard time, like, basically, because I've connected with him on the other side, too, but I have a hard time watching it again, you know. And I grew up with that stuff as a kid, too. But then he goes, no, we're going to watch the new one. I said, there's a new one? And, oh, yeah, there's a new one. I'm like, no, there's no new one to me.
Right.
Well,
no, it's Robin Williams or nothing.
That's how I am with certain movies.
Like
I will not watch.
Yeah.
I will tell you, with Jumanji, they pay a very nice homage to Robin Williams in the next one.
They?
Yes, and they did a very good job of it, I think.
You know, I will say though, I know I get what you're saying. Like, it's all of these shows that get remade, or all of these ones that all of a sudden have a prequel and a sequel and a there's 15 of them out there now. But the ones that get me like really like I hate watching most of them, and are when they take something that was an animation and they make it a live action version of it, and it's almost the same but not really. It's just live action. I am not a fan of those ones at all, and I am not a fan of the ones that do it the other way either, and they take a live action and make it an animation, but it's like the same fucking movie. It's just real people or fake or like drawn people. Like, it's ridiculous.
There's one movie I want them to remake, and I want one of two things to happen. I want them to remake Titanic, and either the boat makes it to fucking New York, or she lets him on the goddamn door. Those two things, one of them has to happen.
Wow.
No, okay, so with you saying that is another thing that I have noticed too in a lot of movies that they've made, where they completely fuck up the historical accuracy of the event that they're talking about. Okay? Yeah. Where, like, all of a sudden, wow, Hitler really did die, and we killed him. Or, yes, this whole thing didn't happen, we saved it beforehand. Or, like, that kind of shit, where it's, like, alternate worlds almost.
Great, what does they call it? Predictions or something? Predictions. I can't talk. But, you know, what makes me mad is Bridgerton. Bridgerton, like, I love the show, but it's inaccurate because of the cultures and everything. I mean, there were slaves, and I feel like we're forgetting that when we go into these fantasy things that did not happen. And I think that's a really big loss. And I mean, that I don't think that's fair to the African Americans too, that they're kind of even doing that. So, but I don't know. I'm like a really big person about like the history has to be completely right, or it'll bother me so much I don't want to watch it.
Right, but I mean, it can be huge events too. Like, it'll be like something like talking about Pearl Harbor, but like, right, it never happened. And then I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you can't just take out a whole block of history. Like, well,
I mean, somebody made a movie and the two towers were standing, and it's like 2024, and it never happened. How would people react to that? I bet you there'd be a huge outrage, right? Humongous. Like, that's the same thing as Pearl Harbor, and like forgetting slavery, like a huge thing.
If it is if it's part of the background and they leave it out, that can be despicable. Yeah. But if it's the actual premise,
like Like if you were in the towers, like, and they were saying, "Boom, it never happened," and they made a whole movie or like
And
a
it's based
TV
on the
series.
based on the fact of what would have happened if it never happened.
Now that's different.
Right.
That's different.
That's totally different than just like skipping over it and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, why would you be fighting these people because this actually did happen? Like, what? Like, it never explains that that's a premise. It never, you know what I mean? It just goes into like
Right.
a war movie where we're at war with this during the same time we should have actually been over here. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, it's weird
Right.
stuff like that I'm like, you never said it was a parallel universe. You never said that, like, it was on a different timeline or set it up to look like it was on a different timeline. It's just like it never happened.
Yeah, right.
But
hmm
the thing is, a lot of them. Okay, the example I'm going to use is a superhero movie. Just to start out with, Captain America.
Okay.
They do that in Captain America with Japan. The United States got into the war because of Japan.
Okay.
But the entire premise of them fighting is against the Germans in Captain America.
Yes, absolutely.
But the thing
Yeah.
is, and like every bad guy in that is German. The
Right.
thing is, they're looking at it as from their point of view in that time. Where in that time, a lot of citizens of the United States didn't even realize we were really in a war with Japan.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Everything was about the Germans because they had already been hearing it for 2 years. It had been shoved down their throat that the world is at war with Germany. We just haven't joined yet.
Yeah.
Now we've joined, so we're at war with Germany. Hitler is the enemy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess I just get really, really tired of, like, if you pick up, like, a history book now, if you pick up anything like that, like, the things that I learned when I was a kid, like, I learned for months on Pearl Harbor and stuff like that, okay? For months, we studied those things. And they talked about how much of an impact they had and how much, like, we'll never forget this stuff and, like, all of that, right? And,
Right.
like, if you look at, like, our kids, they weren't even alive during the whole 9/11 or any of that.
No,
Okay.
you weren't. Yeah.
And they'll talk about that in passing, kind of like we used to talk about, like, Pearl Harbor, because it didn't physically
Right.
happen to us. But they still know about it, but they have no idea about Pearl Harbor anymore. It's like that piece of history got pushed down to one paragraph on a random pamphlet somewhere versus...
Yeah.
How long did your
And all
class
these
spend
people
on
that
the war
would
in
have
1812?
lived. What would have happened if that day never happened?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
that.
being pushed. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. What?
No, what was that,
That's-
Nikki?
Go ahead. I'm being pushed by my family, who I've got family standing here, and they're pushing for me to tell you. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a little frustrated because I'm supposed to be off the clock today. But anyway, I'm being reminded that I had a grandfather and two great uncles who were in wars. And stories that my mom and my grandfather told. I had a grandfather who was in World War II, amongst other things, and two great uncles who were in World War II in the Navy at the time. One grandfather was in the Coast Guard. One grandfather was at home trying to man other things, and two great uncles in the Navy. And I'm being reminded that I grew up, because I wasn't going to say anything, but apparently I'm supposed to. Sorry.
No
A
worries.
little testy at the moment. I apologize, folks. Anyway, but basically I grew up where I had family who reminded me to not forget. And the kids nowadays, my son got to talk to and be around his great-grandfather, but he was very, very, very young at the time, toddlerhood, where the one that was in the Coast Guard, he got to hear very little of that. But the other one who was his great-grandfather, he got to see him up until he passed. So, I mean, up until 10, 11 years old. So he got to hear different things, but most of the kids that are in their 30s did not get to hear some of that from their families because most of them were gone. Well, the kids now, after that are in their 20s, most likely haven't gotten to hear the stories from family unless it's been passed down from the parents.
Right.
To remind them. And one of the things that my grandfather, who was in the Coast Guard, wanted me to understand, and he had me watch a movie when I was 8 years old that just really it tripped me out. I still have a problem with the movie The Bridge Over the River Kwai, amongst a couple of other movies, because he wanted me to understand and to never forget what took place so that it would never happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of the men, that is a grandparent who understood what it meant and how important it was to talk about these things amongst family. Mm-hmm. And unless you were Japanese in Seattle at the time and in, I call them POW camps, but they were basically hauled off to quarantine areas simply because they were Japanese.
Yep.
And that happened in Seattle.
Absolutely.
During that time frame. My grandfather who wasn't military, even talked about it. I mean, he was like, those are things that we need to understand. And I am thankful that he did talk. I just about said my son's name, and that's something I've never done on air. I'm very thankful that he did talk to my son about. I mean, even though it wasn't him, he had a lot of family he had a cousin who jumped out, who was one of the men who survived, who jumped out of planes where he witnessed all of the men that were jumping out of planes via parachutes and were being shot down. Mm-hmm. It's something that I, to this day, have a hard time with because his son told me, he goes, my dad never talked about that. The fact that he would even talk to your grandfather about it is a big deal. Oh, yeah, they used to go camping together. They used to bullshit with each other, and it was the only time that this man ever talked was because he could relate to my grandfather about it. He could relate the information.
Yeah.
And so when you hear something like that, oh, my father wouldn't talk about it because it was so horrific, he wouldn't tell any of us kids, so I never grew up hearing that story. Well, because they were so traumatized by it. And,
yeah, no, totally.
And yet we have to teach our children. It goes down the line. And so I understand where my cousin was frustrated with this. I totally get it. I get the frustration. But at the same time, we have to understand how severe it was for a lot of these folks and why they won't talk. Mm-hmm. But yet the ones that do, it's a whole nother form of bravery. For them to talk about the trauma that they experienced, the horrificness of war, the horrificness of what they experienced. And in that way, it's like when survivors of 9/11, when they talk about 9/11, it was truly horrific. And so that is where we need to stand up and say, hey, this happened. These things did take place. We need to teach that to our kids so that those things never happen again in history.
Well, see, that's the
And
problem.
it's hard.
That is the problem, too, though, is that we try and we talk about things and we figure things out, but history always seems to, not in the same way, but repeat itself, and it's been like that through forever. Like, if you think about, like, if we go all the way back to, like, ancient civilizations and stuff, they had their own wars, they did their own things, they did this, and now it's just that, for them, was, like, daily life, you know? And now for us, it's like, well, 10 million years ago this happened, so cool. And then, you know what I'm saying? So, in order to keep all of that going,
Yes.
in order for us to actually learn from the mistakes that we made in the past, then we need to actually understand the mistakes we made in the past and try to better ourselves and try to not do that stupid shit.
Okay, here's the thing. You started this with being upset that our kids have one paragraph they learn about Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
Kayla,
Yeah.
how much did you learn about the War of 1812?
I'll be honest, I didn't even realize that there was a War of 1812 until after we got together and you talked to me about the War of 1812. I didn't
That's
realize that that was even a thing. Like,
You told
honestly.
me I was a liar the first time.
I was like, what? Bullshit.
Right.
But
But
I
here's
was
the
like,
thing.
the White House didn't
Well-
burn down. What are you talking
How
about?
much do
And
you
he's
know
like,
about the wars
yeah,
that have happened since then?
I don't know as much as I should.
Like, what is the Bangladesh 18?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know as much as I should.
You also got to realize Hunter can write an 18-page paper on the War of the Bangladesh 18.
Okay.
Don't you think we should talk about the fact that people just don't know these things generically anymore because of modern technology and dumb things like
Well,
YouTube consuming their lives?
Yeah.
Not only that,
That's true.
history is
Yeah.
graphically being rewritten and removed from history books in high schools, in
It is.
junior highs and elementary schools
Yeah, I
across the
understand. I
United
understand.
States, and that is appallingly bad.
Well,
like-
see, the
Yeah,
thing
I
about...
know.
What I'm trying to say,
No,
guys, is the fact that Pearl Harbor is one paragraph now.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is because we have things in place that make it so that particular type of attack should not be able to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 4 other paragraphs under it that aren't directly about Pearl Harbor, but about what we have in place to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
No,
the thing. Like,
I hear you.
So the one paragraph covers what happened. The next 4 are about the preventative measures we put in place in our country in order to stop it
Right.
from ever happening again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to say something.
I'm going to say that I disagree with that because I have seen the textbooks that my children bring home, and no, there's no put in place in a textbook.
Oh, ours do.
Yeah.
Not in ours.
See, that's the difference with across the country. That's one
Yeah.
of the points I was going to make. I've got friends
Right.
on the East Coast where it's very different than the West Coast. And it's interesting because I was talking to a friend last week. I was trying to remember how long ago it was. Last week. And she made the comment to me that and I'm not going to say what state she lived in at the time because it's a completely different state than she lives in now. But basically it was the upper East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, in the time frame that I lived in on the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
she talked about the things that were in their junior high and high school history books.
Mm-hmm.
And I was absolutely horrified because there were things on the West Coast that were not being put in on the East Coast. And I about lost my ever-loving shit over it. And that's something that isn't graphically being talked about because when I was in high school in the 80s, in the mid to late 80s, you had, well, not, and quite late 80s when I graduated in 87. So, but the point is that we had chapters on these things, full-fledged 9, 10, 12-page chapters on history. And now it's condensed down to a paragraph. I can't begin to tell you how that pisses me off.
But, you
It
know...
also talks to what is being done regarding state to state and how each state is dealing with educating the public school children versus private education.
Yeah, no, that's something that you gotta look at too, is like, if you pick up a history book, just random history book, okay, let's say you go to Goodwill and you pick up a random history book, one that's from today, okay? Now, if it's a copy that was made in Washington for Washington State school children versus a copy that was made for Ohio versus a copy that was made for anywhere in Canada or other foreign countries or anything like that, it's drastically different, not only state to state, but country to country. It's massively, massively different.
It's that exception, too. If the other person's wrong, they'll never print that they did something wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
I know somebody that's in Italy, and I know people that are in, God, what the hell is the name of that country? Anyway, another country around Italy. I cannot think of the name of the countries right now, and I know my geography really well, so I apologize. Anyway, point is they each talk about the propaganda that is now. They both talk about how the propaganda has shifted. Regarding education in each country. They both talk about how those countries, the propaganda against the United States and Canada, that shocked me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it against the United States, but it really shocked me to hear about the propaganda regarding Canada. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't shock me.
It did me. I totally. You could have knocked me over with a feather with that one. But anyway, it amazes me what is being taught and how each country is against each country. And I'm like, that is not okay. I get it, but it's not okay.
Well, see,
that's something that should be
against, because like my education was way different in history than your guys's.
Yes.
I did 6 countries a year.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say too. Is so me and Cole are roughly the same age. There's like a 4-year gap there, almost to the day actually. But me and Cole would be considered in the same grouping, in the same age range, right? Now, when he talks about his high school experience, and he talks about the stuff that they studied, the things that they had to do, and all of that, versus when I talk to him about my high school experience, it's like we were on totally different fucking planets. Not just totally different countries, but the difference between the two of those educations was seriously night and day.
Well, I mean, honestly, year to year, it varied in my school. Like, we had to do a lot of stuff. My husband, he was 2 years ahead of me, but he had to do a lot of the grunt work that we had to do. But the class underneath us, everything that we had to do, they did not even touch. Like, we had this humongous term paper that literally we wrote a term paper for like a year. It would be like pretty much like a thesis, now considered. But they stopped doing it a year after us because all of the children were getting mono. Like all of us, I got mono too, from stress and exhaustion. And how they made us stay up. Like, just, you would stay up all the time filling out these dumb cards to like cite things and stuff like that. And you had things due. So all the parents complained. They got rid of it. So every year, I think it kind of just varied from who was taking over the staff,
I guess the big thing is, okay, so I have a sister who's 3 years older than me, and then I have a sister who's 3 years older than that. Okay? So my oldest sister had to do this massive senior project. Okay? And I mean, like, a massive senior project. It took her like 6 months to get stuff together for this and to track down everything for it and all of that jazz. And it was an hour-long presentation that they had to do in front of like a whole bunch of different people. So it'd be different teachers and different student body and stuff like that. And they had to explain everything that they had done. Hey,
jeez.
By the time it got to my second oldest sister, hers was still a senior project, but less intensive. and it was only like a 20-minute presentation that she had to do
I was
about
gonna say, yeah.
about what she did. Well, by the time that my little brother graduated high school, his senior project was to go up and talk for 10 minutes about his life in high school and how he felt about what he did.
Oh God.
Okay, so like
Wow.
that's a period of 10 years, but the difference between working for 6 months on a project and doing all this back work and all this other stuff to, yeah, I had a really good time in high school. I played football. I did this. It was great.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and then a difference of 20 years between me and our son Jalen,
Yeah.
but also a difference between two countries. He had exams, and then he had the same senior project that Kayla's brother had, where he had to talk about himself and his experience.
Mm-hmm.
But his exams were 40 minutes long. Mine were 3.5 hours with an extra hour and a half if you needed it.
Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, mine were hours.
Yeah,
Yeah, they had full-fledged, like, get your grade exam. And
but we never had a senior project.
Don't pass it, you don't pass.
Yeah.
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 For your senior year, you didn't get graded on assignments. You got graded on that test. That was it.
I never had a senior project.
Yeah. Oh, I'd never heard of one until I moved down here.
I had mono for 4 months. Then I gave it to my husband, so that was fun.
But see, here's
And
the
we
thing with
just
that.
it.
The thing is, Rosella, like, yes, in the years you were in high school, mono was a major thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of kids were given breaks because of the outbreak of mono.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Our kids,
We still have to work through it.
Trent, our kids, well, in a lot of areas that, like, I looked into with all that, because I started wondering with what they were doing with COVID.
Yeah.
John skipped 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, he didn't go to middle school at all because of the COVID pandemic.
He wasn't graded on them.
No.
Mm.
So our kids missed 2 years.
2 years
Of
of
schooling.
schooling and
Yeah.
that's why I look at like all the kids right now. Like, I think the one that actually ended up coming out worse for wear for it, okay, would be my youngest daughter. She is 12 now. So when she missed the 2 years of school, it was like, what was it, 3rd and 4th grade that she missed.
Yeah.
Well, those are like formative years where you learn specific math, you learn specific, like, it doesn't seem like it's super important because you're like, oh, okay, whatever, it's just little kid stuff, you know what I mean? But
That's really important at times,
then
yeah.
just coming back and all of a sudden you're in the 5th grade and they expect you to already know these things. Well, you had 2 years of your formative schooling where you didn't learn your basic shit. So now they got to teach the basic plus teach grade level stuff. So it was like anybody in any grade who lived through that 2 years ended up being 2 years behind in everything continuing.
Now, to be
Yeah.
fair,
I
fair to our
I had a
daughter.
friend on the East Coast. Sure.
I just want to be fair to our daughter for a moment. In her first year of middle school, 7th grade right now, she's our only kid that's doing really well.
She is.
Friend,
She is actually doing pretty good.
She has straight A's except for
Well,
phys ed.
John's
And
actually doing really well.
So, but...
Yeah, my daughter had the same problem with what you're kind of talking about. It was 4th and 5th. Her math really suffered. And she caught up and she was doing good, and now she's kind of suffering again. But she's working her butt off because she doesn't want to fall behind. And I do think there's a difference between if you do want to not fall behind or not, or you don't care. Because you feel so overwhelmed by not understanding it, so you'll drown. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think Kimberly will, like, your daughter is probably going to be great at fucking fractions.
She
Like, she'll
loves
know that
me.
shit by the back of her goddamn hand, because you're a baker. And I imagine she bakes with you.
Yeah, that's a big deal right there.
Yeah, that's why Kimberly knows fractions.
Yeah.
Friend, She knows
Yeah.
other parts of math because I'm a mechanic. I'm a computer nerd. For all the shit they learned while they were in COVID years
Was all the stuff
was
we
all
knew.
the stuff me and Kayla do.
Right.
Yep, that's how my kid. Yeah,
But
what
that's
I
why I was... Oh, sorry.
What-
You know,
no, go
what-
ahead. I want you to continue on with the parent stuff because I have a comment that can correlate to it, but not like
Well,
this.
That's why I was going to just say really quick. That's why I feel so bad for some of these kids that, like, didn't have the parents that could teach them certain things. Like,
Exactly.
or they were, like, single family homes and that parent had to work the entire time. So, you know, like, I feel like
Exactly.
certain people, I feel like certain people got a huge leg up on other people during that period of time just because they did either have a parent that was at home being able to teach them this versus somebody that still had to work and still had to provide. And I mean, no offense to that parent at all, because we all had to do what we had to do in order to live through that.
But I'm going to say this straight up. It's also the way you guys are taught from the very beginning.
Yep.
Because when I was in kindergarten and stuff, the main lesson in our kindergarten classes is everything is a lesson. Everything can be used as a lesson. If your dad's a drug
That's what
dealer,
I taught.
you are going to know how to work out ounces. You're going to know how to work out pounds. You're going to know it all.
No, I hear you.
Friend, it doesn't matter what your family does, what you do. Everything has a lesson in it.
Yes.
That's right.
And if the kids
And that's how I
actually-
homeschooled.
Yeah, if the kids actually learn to accept that, they give their own leg up.
Yep.
Well, that's what the point that I was kind of saying too. Is like they have to actually care. Where I am, and I mean, I've heard you guys say stuff too before. It's not. Society is so disgusting now. People don't care.
Yep.
These children are like raising themselves. It doesn't matter if it's a single parent or they're together. I have people who are across the street who are the worst people I've ever met in the world. And they're cussing, their kid's cussing at them. They're cussing back at their kid. It's so horrible. This kid is going around the whole neighborhood, ruining everybody's properties, throwing stones at people's heads. And this is year 7 I'm going into. And he still does crap. Tries to run people off their bikes, hit cars. He's awful. It doesn't really matter if there's one parent or not, or what the parent does, because no one's rearing the kid.
Yeah.
No one's caring about the kid. And that's like everywhere now. I live in a great neighborhood, so you don't expect that. But, you know, people just don't. That's just how it is now. It doesn't matter if you're inner city or you're suburban, like, you know, place or a farm, or you're in New York and you are, you know, living in some mansion.
Yeah.
You know, that like The Nanny, you know, the fictitious The Nanny show. I watched that a lot, just kind of like laugh. But that's not really real anymore. That stuff is not real.
Well, and that's what I say is like,
not unless you got a great deal of money.
What people don't really realize, I believe, sometimes, is that your children see everything that you do, not just bits and pieces,
and they'll emulate it.
Not just the good parts of you. They see everything that you do.
Little perverts.
And they emulate everything that you do because they think that that's what it's supposed to be. You're providing that this is culturally acceptable. This is acceptable. This is the way that we say. This is how we act. And you're perpetuating your own stupidity sometimes onto those kids. Okay?
Yeah.
And I will say that there are plenty of times where me, as a parent, I've totally and royally fucked up. Where I did something just stupid as hell, and I turn around and I'm like, oh shit, now my daughter's doing that. Like, stop doing that. Don't do that. That's not... And like, she'll kind of look at me like, what do you mean? You do this? You know? And it's like, oh my God. But
this is exactly why I did not have a foul mouth when I was raising my kid, because I saw a lot of that happening around me. And what I'm seeing on videos now is absolutely appalling. Little toddlers making statements of, well, fuck
Right.
that. And it's because mom and dad are using the F word, or
Well-
they're saying, and they pick it up. Those kids literally speak like you will speak.
Yeah, well,
So
the thing...
it's a big deal. But what I was going
That's
to
why the
say
kid
about
across the street's doing it.
what I was going to say about the education, I've got friends on the East Coast. Some have 2 kids, some have 3, and some have 5. And when they were homeschooling, I was on the phone or on video with all of them at different times. And I was learning that on the East Coast, they were doing, now I don't know about the West Coast because I wasn't heavily involved with
Yeah.
families on the West Coast that much, which is interesting because I'm in Washington. But on the East Coast, what I learned was that they were doing, in specific states, they were doing video for the teachers. The teachers would have a set time for class, and they were doing video conferences with their teachers. And the schools, the parents would pick up laptops. Now, this is another issue I've got, but that's a whole other subject. Deals with video and what can be viewed on school laptops. That's a whole other subject. But they were doing classes that way. And so the teachers were able to see the student, the entire class, and who was there, who wasn't, and that's how they were getting their schooling done.
Yeah.
And during the lockdown, and that was pretty important. And when you've got the other thing I learned was that it was different. And it was very different for math classes. Oh my God, did I learn a lot from that? But it was fascinating to me in how things were being done on the East Coast regarding education, especially for those that had special needs students.
Yeah.
Special needs students on the East Coast, they were having a specific allotted time, usually a lot longer than what the quote-unquote regular classes were. And those students, that's what they focused on. That was what they basically had individual education plans because, they had an IEP.
Yeah.
And the teachers were trying to abide by what was in the student's IEP. And it was making it really tough on those who were teaching. But the fact that they were even doing this was huge.
Right.
Just huge. The fact that the schools were even able to get their hands on that many laptops. But what happens to the student that doesn't have a parent at home because they were part of having to work in a grocery store or were a medic
or something.
A nurse or a doctor or some such thing where they're basically the equivalent of a first responder in that regard and had to work. So what happens then? Then it makes it very... It made it very difficult. So I learned a lot about those things as well. It's fascinating as to what we were doing then versus what we're doing now. And now I hear stories from folks that I know all across the United States where they're frustrated with their school systems. And that goes state to state all the way across from the West Coast to the East Coast. And how some principals and some directors of schools, depending upon what kind of school it is, they have a director, are actually homeschooling because they don't like what's being taught in their own school.
Yes.
That
Now,
speaks volumes as to what is taking place across the United States.
I did have one meeting with the kids' gym teacher.
Oh yeah, that was
friend,
messed up.
Where I actually asked her if she was fucking stupid.
Well, okay.
Let me...
No, sorry.
Friend, so Kimberly told me the first day that they started the at-home programming that for phys ed they had to go out for an hour, do exercises on video, and then send them over the internet to their teacher.
Wow.
Remember,
So-
she was in the 3rd grade.
Within 15 minutes, I was on the phone with their gym teacher, asking her if she was really asking 350 minors to send her videos online of them in gym clothes doing exercises.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
What the
That's
I'm
fuck are
glad
they
you said it
thinking?
that way.
Yeah, and we were like, there is no way. I don't care if our kids fail phys ed. There is no way
Well-
I am having any of them film themselves and send
You
that
were
in.
home. But I told her that she can come to our house the next morning, and if she could keep up with me, Kimberly, John, and Hunter for 2 hours and not puke, then she can fail Kimberly and John and Hunter and Jalen. If she pukes before 2 hours, every one of them gets A's. Right? And
I think the whole point really is that you find out how smart your teachers are, right?
Yeah, like, and she's like, wait a minute, what do you have these kids doing? And I said, well, for the first 2 hours of the morning, we're doing yard work. But I haven't seen anyone work like my kids when I'm pushing behind them. And she's like, oh. And, like, some of the things that they expected these kids to do was just ludicrous.
Well, the other thing that really pissed me off in our area is we live way out in the country, okay? And our school district goes all the way up almost to the beginning of the mountains here, like the actual foot of the North Cascades, like going up. And there is a lot of, at that time, there was a hell of a lot of blackout zones here where there was no internet available.
Oh.
Or there was no way that you could get online from, like, half of the kids, anybody who lived in Rockport and up, they couldn't get online. That was a complete blackout zone up here. So when they got their computers and stuff, well, that's cool, except they can't hook them to the internet because there is no internet in those areas. So they set up hubs for these kids. So now not only did these kids have to come into a hub where they sat in a car for the period of time where they had to do this, hooking up to a public Wi-Fi network that they had set up. But what
And that problem.
well, that's the problem is that, so if this parent is working, or if this person can't get there because of gas issues or whatever, I mean, some of these were 20 miles away. The hub
Some
zones.
people just didn't have cars. I mean, in Dayton, they had that. People don't have cars.
Or
They
what?
walk.
Or what happens when you don't have the ability to take your kid to this hub zone for whatever reason? Well, it's not your kid's fault. It's not your fault because you can't even get the internet out there if you wanted to. Like, we had a lot of people in our really rural areas that were really far behind because of that.
Not really far behind. I will say our school district did go to great lengths and beyond with all that stuff. Because once they figured out that the hubs didn't work, it only took about a month, which is really good considering most of this stuff hasn't been used in 10 years, that they went back to the paper program books for these kids for homeschooling.
Yeah.
To be able to find all that, make sure it's updated, make sure it's all done in a month, is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say that our school district did an excellent job with the means that we had and with the massive array of different types of people and types of environments that we live in up here. They actually did a really, really damn good job of making sure as many people were included as humanly possible.
Yeah.
But we also, and I will give it up to our school district as well, we have a lot of very low-income families in our area, and they rely heavily, some of them, on school lunch programs and stuff like that to make sure. And we actually, our school district...
Put everyone on that list.
Put everyone on that list. So everyone in our school district.
So during COVID, the buses ran once a day
and they would drop off meals for breakfast, lunch, and breakfast the next morning.
No, you got lunch that day and breakfast for the next morning
Yeah.
for each kid in the house.
Okay.
So they would drop them off at the kids' bus stops at their regular bus stop times. So
Wow.
you could go and grab the lunches and the breakfast for each kid in your household for that day. And they
then-
did that through the entire...
That's impressive.
They
Yeah,
did
like
that
they
through
didn't
the
stop
entire
during the summer.
COVID. Yeah, and through the summer. Yeah.
For us, they did like
That's
2 years
impressive.
after all of our kids ate free lunch. So everybody, no matter
Ours
who,
still
what
do.
income.
Yeah, ours do too.
Ours still do.
Yeah.
But
Oh, ours stopped like this last year, which we were like, oh, kind of bummer because it was kind of cool because the kids were eating actually more because they usually pack. And I'm like, oh, good, they're exposed to different food. That's kind of good.
Well,
ours were eating less because that's the only thing. When it comes to mass school buying like that,
yeah.
none of our kids trusted the milk because every once in a while they'd get chunky milk.
yeah.
Or just
Oh.
a solid block that wouldn't come out of the
Yeah.
cardboard thing.
You
Oh
know,
my gosh.
but
Oh,
I
no, I've never
also-
seen
I also will give it up. Our community really rallied together during that time for a few different things as well. So also with the bus routing and stuff, for people that were very low income that relied on like food bank and stuff, they would give them meal packets for the week too. Like they'd drop off a
That's
box of food that came
Yeah.
from different sources and local food banks and different things like that. But they would do it on the same busing route so that they didn't have to come into town to try to get it and figure that all out. It was actually really awesome.
That's pretty good.
Plus, the ladies on the bus route rocked because every couple of weeks they'd let me keep the egg or the milk carton that they kept using. Right.
Yeah, they
And I
were
really
like,
like those things.
here, you're a mechanic, you need this, and would just
Wow.
drop off the little milk crates and go, like, we had this whole section of milk crates for a while. It was kind of cool.
It was funny. How do we get on the subject? I don't even remember now.
I don't either.
We got on to history and then how history has changed. And
And then it just kind of
it
exploded
snowballed.
from there.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, because, you know, like, only on S-4 can we go from talking about ELF to school lunch programs.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I'm pretty upset we hardly talked about Elf. I
Yeah.
love that guy.
Oh my goodness.
I did get a whole bunch of Canadian snacks, though, from my mom. That was awesome.
Yeah, you did. But now you've eaten them all.
That's not my fault. Fred. No,
I can't think of anything on the subject anymore about because we already discussed it.
Yeah, right? We went so far off the rails that I don't even know how to pull that back.
I don't know. It's
Right.
just weird to me how, like, okay, looking at the timeline of it for mass media,
Yeah.
a guy comes up with a show about space.
Are you talking Gene Roddenberry here?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
He goes to dinner with a couple that he's known for years and starts telling them about it. And the lady of the couple loves the idea so much that she tells the studio to buy it or she'll quit her show.
Hmm.
Do you guys know who that was?
Mm-mm.
Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah,
Nice.
friend. She threatened to quit I Love Lucy if they didn't give Star Trek a chance.
Yep.
Wow. No, I never knew that.
Me either.
I didn't know these.
Because I watch the internet like a fucking hawk, guys.
We're still.
Like,
I tell my husband all the time how amazing you are that you know all this stuff.
for
I'm like,
hating,
"Holy
for a guy
hell."
who hates TikTok, I watch more 30-second reels than anyone I know.
It's not. It's,
Well, you got to be
not
careful
alive.
with those because those will trick the
Yeah.
brain into speeding through other things. So be real careful about that because that's what I learned regarding. That's what I learned regarding how it's one of those ways to where overstimulation of the brain can trigger certain things. So be careful with doing that, Cole. Though I get why, I totally
Yeah.
understand it, but it's a
Well-
form of trickery of the brain. So be
There's
careful.
one I want you guys to look for. And I don't actually believe they make them anymore. They're not 30 seconds. They're about 4 minutes. They're called infographics. That's the little company that they're on YouTube. They're on everything. Oh, Rosella left. Friend, they do little videos of history. Different parts of history that no one knows. Like a guy that was in World War II who continued to fight. Welcome back, Rosella.
I got kicked out for. What happened?
But what I was saying was this company does little videos that are cartoons. They're really badly drawn cartoons with a narrator. And like the one is of a guy who was in World War II in the South Polynesian Islands. And when World War II ended, his entire platoon was killed, except for him. And he didn't believe that it was over. He continued fighting guerrilla warfare type war on this one island for another 10 years.
Is this true?
Yes, absolutely
Good
true.
Lord.
Yes.
It took, and it wasn't a soldier from our side. He was from Japan. He refused to give up. He refused to believe that they lost. And it took his commanding officer of his division to come to the island and on a loudspeaker announce that the war was over. And he finally came
Oh my
out.
God.
He was still killing people for 10 years.
Wow.
That's
So
terrible.
did they imprison him because of those 10 years of murders?
No,
Or wow.
because he was still
Wow.
at war.
Yeah, he was still at war, but I didn't know if they did something to God.
He was given
Yeah.
medals when he
Wow.
got home for his bravery.
Wow.
Because the locals were shooting back still. So, like, that's still a sign that the war's still on.
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough.
So, and then there's a guy who he was in Hiroshima for the first bomb. When it went off, he survived. And he walked home. Guess where he lived?
He lived in Nagasaki.
I was just going to ask if he was Nagasaki.
Yes.
And how the hell did he survive?
So he survived.
And he was
both
just outside
of
of
the
the main
bombs.
blast area, and he luckily survived behind a building. Friend, when he got out of the rubble, he immediately started walking home to his family. When he got home, he was just outside the blast area when the one at Nagasaki went off.
My God almighty.
So he survived both nuclear bombs.
Yes.
Okay,
Like
me, that means that he was supposed to. He was meant to tell his story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is a living example. Oh my God.
They have all kinds of little stories like this that they run through, and it has little stick men for the
Like the depiction
what they're
pieces.
depicting?
Yeah.
and it is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
But it's where I learned 90% of the stuff I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And like looking it up afterwards, it's all true. They talk about the guy on Titanic, who the officer that freaked out and started shooting into the air, about his true story. They were the
I don't
first
even know
ones to
that.
set. Yeah, so in the movie it depicts an officer he starts shooting into the crowd a little bit and shooting in the air, trying to get everyone's attention, trying to tell them shut the fuck up and get in the boats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
And
makes
once he
him look like
realized
a
that
bad
he
guy.
shot a lady,
Ooh.
and he didn't mean to, he clipped her. He put the gun to his own head and shot himself and went over.
What?
Yeah, in the
Oh, so he thought he
movie.
killed someone, so he
yeah,
killed
that-
himself?
yeah in
that
the movie.
didn't happen.
But in real life, it didn't happen.
He was given awards after the Titanic sunk because he saved most of the people on that side of the boat.
Yeah, he was able to get them to load more people into the life rafts, and he was able to stop the life rafts and load more people into them by telling them, no, this is not the way this is happening. And he actually physically burnt his hands with the ropes that were going down to stop the rafts so that they could fill more people into them.
Wow.
And then there's a story about a lady on the Titanic who
That's incredible.
she was on the Titanic, and then she went on the Britannica. And then it has one more sister that she was also on. She was on all three boats when they sunk, and she made it off all three.
No,
Yes.
she wasn't on. Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's stories like that I love and love watching, so I always watch all these things to look for that kind of stuff.
Well, and the
Okay,
thing...
so name the third boat that she was on, please. I know it. I'm not going to say it.
I don't know it.
I can't remember the name of that.
Lithuania?
Yeah, that's right.
Lithuania.
Yes. Yeah, she was on all three of them when they sank.
And do you know that there's someone even better than that, though? One of the first officers of the Titanic, after it sunk, he became a first officer on the Britannica, then on the Lithuania, and
No,
then
Lithuania.
at the Battle of Dunkirk. He
Oh
had
my
a personal
God.
boat, and he was one of the boats that brought guys from Dunkirk back to England. And his boat sank before he got back to England.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
You know,
But
I
they all
think-
made it. They all
This woman
swam.
has a... God.
Yeah, you know, I think after boat number 2, I probably would never go sailing again. I would just be
No,
like,
hell
you know
no.
what? I am so over this. I am never going on a cruise again in my life.
It was all out.
To be fair, the only
Wow.
other thing they had was the planes they had in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I mean, in order to go
I'm getting on a
anywhere,
boat.
you're either getting on a boat or a plane. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Was-
I have an idea for the next show.
What's that?
We should do... Have we ever done the planes that disappeared? Like, actual events of planes disappearing and, looking into it? Because you know all this history stuff. Be kind of interesting.
Oh, are you talking the Bermuda Triangle planes and
Flight 266.
Flight 26? Yeah, like those ones.
Yeah, well, there's this one in Alaska, I remember, and they even made, I think they made a show about it or something, some kind of spin-off about it, right? But how they think that they went into a time slip or something, but we could do, theories about it.
But,
But,
that
just-
Amelia Earhart stuff, that kind of thing.
We absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can totally do that. I know a lot on that, actually.
Aviation disappearances.
Actual detailed, events, hey, 15 minutes, a thing or something,
Yeah.
kind
Friend.
of to educate
How
people.
about we just do it as a disappearance while traveling, because then we can put some of the boats and stuff into there, too.
Well, because I was going to say about Fitzgerald, and I think that didn't it sail on Lake Erie?
There is enough planes.
There is enough planes to
To
do
run
a
a
whole
full
episode
episode.
on planes, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Because,
I think we could do planes and then boats.
number one, I am never getting on a frickin' plane that has the word Malaysia near it. Their planes disappear all the fucking time, and that scares shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we could talk about the guy, the pieces of the boat, or the pieces of the plane that were used.
What?
Found?
No, okay. There was a plane that went down, and they recycled some of the pieces of that plane for a new plane that was being made.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, it caused all kinds of crazy havoc on that plane. And as soon as they took off the parts from that plane, there was nothing wrong with it again. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but I can go into more detail on that next week when we talk about planes and disappearances.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, my husband's like job he works for.
Cool?
Oh, okay.
So, have you guys ever heard of the guitar company Gibson?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So the Gibson Guitar Company started in the 1950s. They started because the founding member or founding owner was in the Korean War, and he continued to be stationed after the war was over in Korea. The village that he was stationed in had so many airplane props because they supplied airplanes to Japan during the World War.
Mm-hmm.
And they no longer could.
Mm.
So he started taking the props because he was bored because there was nothing to do after the war was over. So all day he sat there and he started making them into guitars. And that's why Gibson guitars, some of their best guitars, have a rounded back because it's in the shape of a prop.
Good Lord.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Isn't that cool?
That is bizarre and fantastic all at the same time.
I'm trying to find a guitar for Kimberly because she's a smaller lady, right?
That's like me. Nobody could find a small enough guitar.
Well, with the rounded back, these things are only 3 inches deep.
Really?
Yeah, it's the Gibson bandolier. And they range from everywhere from $150 to $7,000. But I'm trying to find her one that I can give to her for her music class because she takes guitar now. So, because she tried playing my Dreadnought and she could barely reach the strings. It was very
Tell her I know what that's like. That's why I ended up playing the flute instead because I couldn't get my fingers around a lot of... Yeah, I understand what that's like.
So, but like, I love information like that. Always have.
That's phenomenal.
This is why Kayla hates going to museums with me.
Oh, God. No, okay.
I'll go with you guys to museums. I love museums.
If there's a plaque or a book there, is it not there for you to read it?
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay,
you gotta
so
read it.
whoa. Time out. On the same thing. Okay, we went into this little tiny gift shop / museum when we were down at, oh God, what was that? Fort Flagler.
Yeah.
Okay? There's this little tiny gift shop / museum at Fort Flagler. Okay? And, I mean, your average person might take maybe half an hour if they're reading everything and looking at everything like, oh, wow, what's that? Okay? Cole and John were in there for almost 3 hours looking at every little piece of everything. And then they would read the plaques.
That's like me.
They read the plaques, but then, because they read the plaque and it mentioned something off of the plaque, well, now we have to sit here with our phone, look up what that one meant, and then, oh, wait a minute, well, that led to this, and then, okay, Jesus.
To be fair,
me.
Hold on.
Museums are a rabbit hole for this man.
Along one of the walls, they had a collection of officers' swords and officers' muskets. So I will say 1 hour was spent reading and studying. The other 2 hours were kind of spent trying to figure out how to get one out of the museum.
Jesus.
Well, see, I'm one where I want to touch everything because everything is a history, and I want to see what I'm going to see when I touch something. There are things you don't want to touch, but hello, there are things that you do.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, so the very first time I went to the
Don't
Royal
take me into a
Tyrrell,
museum.
I went to the Royal Tyrrell Museum with Cole, and me, I look at a couple of plaques, and I'm like, wow, that's a cool dinosaur, and I'm like, okay, let's go check this one out. You know, like that's me in a museum. God. Okay, we could have spent 6 hours just in the first fossil dam room of that museum.
Yeah. No,
Is
yeah,
that
like when I
person-
go with like places with like Mist, she takes like forever, my friend Misty. And I'm like, okay, like let's go. We gotta move on. Like we have a schedule. And she's like, no, look at this. Look at this canteen. I'm like, oh God.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, how can you find the same fossil of the same dead ass dinosaur so interesting for 3 hours? Like,
Well, the Gettysburg was like crazy because you like walk into these little things, but you're there forever because there's so much to read. So you really have to pick and choose. I'm like, okay, so if we're doing this, we're moving on now. Like we're losing this thing, leaving it behind. This is just how it is when you're with me.
Okay, so you and Kayla go, and me and Cole and John will go.
Yeah.
okay, and then you know what, Rosella?
Yeah.
Afterwards, we can go for a full 15-course meal, and then they'll meet us.
I know.
Okay?
Yeah. No, I'll have my line, and I'll be like, we'll sit and wait for you and have a good time.
You want
We'll be
to
in
go to
the
a
bar.
movie, too? Okay.
Oh my God, this is
We're
hysterical.
dancing later.
You know what?
They just
This
make me
works.
ride.
This works because now me and John have someone to distract the guard while we grab all the knives.
Oh my God, you guys.
We gotta get Cleopatra's headpiece. Like, oh.
Oh shit.
Friend, you were wrong though.
No,
It wasn't
you-
Fort Flagler. It was Fort Stevens.
Fort Stevens, that's right. I went to Fort Flagler with Mom. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay. I love old forts, dude. It's one of my things. And there are so many, like, historic buildings and old forts and stuff around here.
I love old houses. I love to go in the historic houses and see things. And there was like one in Gettysburg that is a really remarkable
Yeah, me
story.
too.
Like, if I could ever write a book about this woman's life, I mean, she came in, she saw all these people, like, basically the Civil War, just destroy her whole house and watching everybody die. She was 9 years old, and she was dying at like 97. And this reporter finally interviewed her. She was 97. And he said, do you remember that day? And she described the smells and the blood everywhere and like, just like how the day and the heat. And it was crazy. You would have loved it, Cole. Like it was really neat. This guy did a great job going through it, that he kept you kind of interested. And it was a long, like standing tour. You were standing and walking through the house, but it was really amazing. I think it was like the Collins house. I forget what it was. Like it was really cool place that we went to in like outside of Gettysburg, and then they had a huge cemetery.
You know,
So
if,
you guys loved it.
now
That's
Cole
awesome.
has always
Love
wanted
stuff
to
like
go
that.
and check out Gettysburg and like all this and everything. I think
You like
we would
don't
need.
eat.
I think we would have to take an entire summer to do
Like,
that.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
Well,
to really
especially if
like
you
genuinely
don't
get
get
through all of that. We would be down there all summer.
How many headstones are there at Gettysburg?
well, I mean, they had their own separate cemetery for just that war, like just that battle. I mean, so that was separate, and that was like 15 to 1800 just there on their property.
We
Okay.
might need
So-
2 summers.
It
That
would
was
take
separate.
2 summers to get through that because he'd have to
I
stop
know,
at each
yeah.
one and read them.
Well, yeah, you got to read every headstone. It's polite.
I mean, at least I talked Misty out of going to the cemetery. She's like, I've already been in here before. I'm like, okay, good. We're not
I
going.
go to the ones I'm drawn to. I don't read every
That's
one
me.
of them, but I go to the ones that I'm drawn to.
That's me. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, this is
Well, it's because their spirit is standing right there. They're like, come. They welcome, typically, they welcome you. Not all
Yeah.
of them, but
It-
most of them.
It is midnight. We do have to get going right away. But do you guys, like Nikki, you know how you were telling me to be careful with the reels? Do you know what has been showing up on mine? And it is so fucking true.
Oh, God, what?
If I come into your house,
Mm-hmm.
all I want is a coffee and a cookie. Not all this, who the fuck are you and how did you get in here? Like, come on. Fred, the next one,
do that.
I saw that like 18 times in the last 2 weeks. And then today, this morning, I saw the best one ever. And it says, if I cuddle you, I expect you to cuddle me back. Not all this feels kind of gay shit. Like,
Oh,
Oh,
oh my god.
that's the stuff I look at when I'm not looking at historical stuff.
so funny.
But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we
With
do...
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with that, we do have to go.
I was expecting it. I'm waiting.
It is midnight. Thank you again. It was a great show. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Rosella.
Thank you,
Fred.
Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be back with Missing Aviation.
All
Yeah.
right.
What would that be? Missing Aviation 211?
What?
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
211 is a helpline
Well,
here.
they need help.
Yeah.
Good. All right, guys. Again, we will be back next Wednesday, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to catch Nikki's show. Rosella's got a book signing. Rosella, when and where is that?
The Lighthouse Festival in Marblehead, Lakeside in Ohio. And that is Saturday from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. So I will be there signing my The Haunting at 2095 novel.
Perfect.
So come on out.
When we're off here, can you put a thing up in the Discord
Okay.
for everyone?
Perfect.
And then I'll also direct you how to put one on the Facebook page. For Nikki's show is on both the Discord. Only about 2-3 posts up, and then also she is on her Facebook page as always. So make sure you catch her show. Restore
Thursday
Belief
tomorrow.
with Nikki. Thursday tomorrow.
Yeah, it's Thursday at 7 p.m. And tomorrow we're dealing with super soldiers or space soldiers, depending upon what you want to call them.
You know what you should lead with?
What?
Small Soldiers, because I love that movie.
And
That was a
right
good
above
movie.
Nikki's there in the chat room is also one of Robert's mini shows that he does with a friend.
Yes.
So this one is Paranormal PWA. Go and check that out as well.
Yeah, the next one should be in about 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So make sure you check that out on the Things Network on YouTube. All right, guys, and we will see you next week. Enjoy your week and be safe.
Bye.
night, everybody.
Nah.
Bye-bye.
Data transfer complete. System malfunction. Please evacuate immediately. Program terminated.
Son of a biscuit eater.